Are you ready? We have only 3 more NFL games this year. Welcome to a championship weekend edition of Inside Coverage on Yahoo. I'm Andrew Siciliano. Thanks for being here, friends, from the home office in Southern California, the home of the team that I am picking to win the NFC Championship. We'll get to that. We'll break down the games. We're happy you're with us. We're happy. I'm happy that senior NFL writer Charles Robinson is back with us today, that Ben Fawkes, our gambling expert, is back with us today. I'm happy that the three of us, the 3 best friends that anyone could have, are back together to preview 2 of the final 3 NFL games remaining. See, Rob, how the heck are you?
Just hanging in. We're all waiting for this ridiculous storm that's supposed to hit here. I'm just hoping I can get out to Seattle before this thing comes in. So yeah, that's what we're all panicking, because it's going to get a little cold in Houston and there's going to be some ice.
Okay, so let's do the weather update. I hear from Jane Slater, who's texting or tweeting rather, because she's in Dallas, my NFL Network colleague and good friend, that they're panicking there. Are they panicking in Houston as well? And I don't mean about the state of the Texans offense.
Yeah, the mayor actually came out and told everyone, don't come out of your homes from Saturday to Tuesday.
Don't leave your home?
He's saying stay off the roads, stay inside.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he said this at like a city council meeting, and like people are just flipping out.
People.
It
reminds me of the Super Bowl when we were in Dallas. The ice storm years ago. They had the issue at Jerry World at AT&T Stadium. They had the sidewalks and the roads covered in ice, and they had nothing with which to treat said roads and said sidewalks. They had sand. Sand doesn't work, friends.
Sand.
And so their idea of dealing with the bad roads, and they said this, was just stay inside. Just stay inside until it melts. Like the Super Bowl's here. Just stay inside. Don't worry about it. Just stay in your room. Ben, how's the weather in the tri-state area?
It's fine.
Yeah, winter's not that bad.
We'll see in March. It'll be fine. Well, luckily for me, I will not be traveling to either of these games, so I'll be on my couch either way. I think it's 12 to 15 inches we're supposed to get in New Jersey, so a significant amount of snow, but it's all Sunday. It looks like it's just Sunday morning, like 6 a.m. all the way through. So it will, it'll be what it'll be. It'll be fine. I'll be in the home office either way. We'll make it to the grocery store between now and Sunday. That's the big thing. Got to make sure
there's
supplies.
Milk and toilet paper, buddy. Yep.
Other than that, we'll be fine.
I'm sure you'll be fine. You guys can handle it. This is traffic and weather on the ones. We'll get to the games coming up in a second. Actually, this is kind of related. I was going to go to the Senior Bowl next week. A massive storm of about a foot of snow, the same storm we're talking about, is supposed to hit Cleveland Sunday night, Monday morning. They're going to get dumped on too. So a bunch of them aren't going. Them meaning like the Browns content staff. Also because there's still a head coach to be hired. And what if that happens mid next week? Then we're all going to be at the Senior Bowl. So I'm not going to the Senior Bowl. So the weather kind of sort of affecting me as well, but not nearly the same as you guys, because you see, it's looking out the window. It's 59 outside. It's ugly and gray and overcast, but it's actually not that bad here. And I'm not rubbing it in anyone's face. I'm just reporting on the weather because I'm a journalist. Okay. Oh, yeah, we'll start with the coaching, because I kind of went there. Browns don't have a head coach, but they are now one of 5 teams without, because we are down to 5. 5 of the 10 openings have been filled. As we sit down to record this, inevitably, an award-winning podcast, the Baltimore Ravens have hired, #as expected, their former assistant coach, Jesse Minter, most recently Chargers defensive coordinator, as their new head coach. None of us are surprised, although I don't want to put words in either of your mouths. This is how I felt it was always going to land. Maybe Anthony Weaver could have been the guy. Yeah, sure. Mike McDaniels kicked the tires on him as well. That would have been interesting, assuming Lamar Jackson gets his new contract extension. But C-Rob, we said it immediately the day the show that Harbaugh was out. Jesse Minter makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, there's familiarity. Obviously, as you said, he was previously on that staff. He knows the front office, right? So there's an immediate there's linkage there where you don't have to worry about, okay, the front office going to be at odds with this next head coach because of lack of familiarity. I think it's the Mike Macdonald hire. I really do. I think that, Mike Macdonald got out of the building in Baltimore. It dramatically affected their defense. And I think Minter is just very similar in terms of some of the things he does schematically. Young guy that connects with his players, really connected with players in Los Angeles with the Chargers. And, I think he was groomed for this, frankly. Like it's been a matter of time before something like this came along for him. So the fit is very, very natural. It was, they did their due diligence, right? But I truly believe that organization has regretted Mike Macdonald getting out the door. Now, what could they have done? It's not like they could have fired John Harbaugh to try and retain Mike Macdonald, but they knew they lost a very, very talented coach who's going to be probably a dominant coach in this league for a couple of decades. And I think that's really what they're pointing to when they make this hire.
Yeah. Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, I think also interesting, right? Because we know, as was kind of discussed, Lamar Jackson, contract extension, Lamar's his own agent. Like clearly Lamar had some sign off, right, on this coach as well, but he's a defensive guy. So he's not the guy who's going to, quote unquote, fix Lamar as much as you think or don't think Lamar needs fixing, right? But I think it's interesting that they went, hey, we really like this guy as a head coach, really like the defensive side of the ball. And as C-Rob said, kind of that Seattle mold of, hey, up and coming defensive coach, he'll have that side of the ball kind of fixed. And which has been an issue somewhat in Baltimore. I would say they probably underplayed, right, the level of talent that you'd say they had on the defensive side of the ball, maybe last year, the last few years. But in terms of that offense, there's still a lot of question marks. And I think that'll be really interesting who they decide to bring in as an OC and kind of what that looks like, both in what Jesse Minter thinks, what Lamar Jackson thinks, and how you kind of meld those two with Derrick Henry as well. Zay Flowers, do they, go offense in the draft? Now you have a defensive head coach. Does he want to go defense? So there's a lot of factors in there. I think it's interesting, though, that they go, as C-Rob said, kind of that Seattle mold. Let's just make sure this side of the ball is fixed, but it's the defensive side they go, not the offensive side when you have Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. It's interesting. If you go back to Steve Bisciotti's presser a couple of weeks ago, which was an all-timer, when asked how much input Lamar Jackson would have, he basically said, he could sit in all the interviews if he wants to get his butt on the plane. Basically, I told him, hop on the plane, come up with me from Florida if you really want to do this. I'll certainly ask his opinion, but I'm in charge, right? And he said that with a smile on his face and it went over great. I think Josh Allen might actually have more influence in Buffalo's coaching search than Lamar did in this one. Lamar's got to get his new deal. I'm with you. I'm fascinated as to what the offensive system or the coordinator hiring looks like. But Minter, remember, was in Baltimore, went to Michigan, so John gave him to Jim. Jim took him to L.A. Chargers defense, I think, has overperformed with the talent they have. And now he's going to go there and try to work that magic with Baltimore as well. And just to tie it to the Browns and the other head coaching openings, there are still 5 remaining. When news broke, Mary Kay Cabot of the Cleveland Plain Dealer, Cleveland.com, earlier today that Minter was taking his name out of consideration. He had been scheduled to interview his first in-person interview with the Browns today. Cleveland Sports Talk Radio and Browns fans that, understandably sometimes blow things out of proportion, immediately said, more bad things about the Browns. No, guys, he had this job. It's not more bad things about the Browns. He went where everyone knew he was going to go. It's not a condemnation of the other teams. This was the obvious destination for Jesse Minter. Yes, you planned all the other interviews, but when the one you really want actually calls up and says, we want you too, then you cancel the other ones. It's not a pox on your house. It's merely 2 people coming together that love each other. That's all. Okay. Let's get to the games. You guys ready for the games? Let's do that.
Let's do it.
Let's do the American Football Conference first. The Patriots, 14-3. The Broncos, 14-3. This is the 2 seed visiting the 1 seed as it is supposed to be in the AFC. It's Sunday. It's the early game. It's 3 Eastern. It's Nance. It's Romo. It's Tracy Wolfson. The Patriots, their first conference championship game since that ridiculous Brady run of 8 consecutive ending in 2018. The Broncos are trying to make it to a Super Bowl for the first time since they won Super Bowl 50 when, with Coldplay giving you just a lukewarm performance at Levi Stadium, Peyton and the Broncos beat Cam Newton, the MVP that year, and the Panthers. The story here is, of course, Jarrett Stidham, who has not thrown a pass in anger in a game that counted since Week 18 of 2023. On Sunday, it will be 749 days. His only victory came the week before that year. It was Week 17. The Broncos beat the Chargers. Giff Smith was the interim head coach of the Chargers that day. And let's see, Easton Stick was the quarterback of the Chargers that day. If memory serves, it was a short week for the Chargers after Brandon Staley and the Chargers got embarrassed on a Monday night in Las Vegas. Guys, there are a million ways to look at this game. Everyone wants to count the Broncos out because Jarrett Stidham can't do this. I am absolutely on the other side of this. New England's a heck of a team. I am pro Mike Vrabel. I think Drake May is legit. The defense in New England does not get enough credit for as well as they have played. But Jarrett Stidham can sling it. Yeah, he can make some mistakes, but he's not going to be afraid. Sean Payton's not going to be afraid. And if you think they're just going to screen him to death to avoid the turnovers and keep it simple, that ain't going to happen. He's going to take his shots. Sean Payton wants to show you how tough he is as well. And I think this is a game. Matter of fact, I think it's a game the Broncos can win. Because Drake May, if you haven't noticed, through these first two games, has turned the ball over a lot. He's been sacked 10 times, and he has 5 giveaways, and there have been multiple fumbles that haven't been giveaways, where he's gotten lucky and the ball has bounced the Patriots' way. Denver leads the NFL in sacks. Denver, the last 2 years, has put up sack numbers comparable to mid-'80s Bears and Giants teams. That's how good they are. And I don't know what the line is, Ben, because I don't speak that code. That's your world. But C-Rob, I'm taking the Broncos, and I can't believe I'm saying it.
Yeah, and I mean, Ben will speak to this, but the line is moving in the favor of the Broncos. I think it was over 5. It was like 5.5 or 5, and now it's down to, Patriots -4.5. So clearly some people are starting to look at the Broncos and feel better about, what they're seeing and hearing. And you're right. I mean, like Peyton, when it comes to Jarrett Stidham, he has confidence in Stiddy can go out there and he can carry us. And this isn't new. I mean, he's always talked very glowingly about Jarrett Stidham, and feeling like he could still be a starting level quarterback in the NFL. But what I think is really interesting about this is when you look at the Patriots, and as much as we're going to focus on Stidham, you mentioned May. I mean, 10 sacks. The Chargers got to Drake May. The Houston Texans got to Drake May, and he had the turnovers. 6 total fumbles, 2 interceptions. Mike Vrabel's lamented several times, like, hey, not great, can't be giving the ball away like that. And I think the Broncos really, really like the idea of having these matchups on the edge that are going to give problems to the New England Patriots offensive tackles. And another thing, too, that's really interesting about the Broncos defense, and by the way, extremely hard to win in Denver. What we talked about, Brady went 0-3 in the playoffs in Denver. Brady and Belichick both went 0-3. Could not win playoff games there. I mean, it'll be cranked up there. And then you look at the Broncos defense as well. I think they have confidence that they don't have to really double any of the wide receivers, any of the pass catchers for New England. So what they'll do is you're going to take, Patrick Surtain. You're probably going to end up putting him, you'll just decide who's the biggest threat here in terms of their wide receivers, Stephon Diggs. So you single them up with Diggs. They'll probably single up any other receivers, and then they'll take that ability, that flexibility to have an extra defender because you're not doubling anybody in the receiving core, and they'll use that to stack up against the Patriots' run, which the Patriots, I think, also feel like that's maybe where we can do some damage in this game in the middle of that Denver defensive line with some chunk plays. But I'm with you. I like the Broncos a lot more than I think other people do, just because I think that defense is top tier, and I think they match up pretty well with that New England offense, and they're at home, and I think people are just not counting that enough in this game.
C-Rob's coming from my job here. I'm gonna have to start getting some coaching, sources and start going on his block here. No, I'm kidding. You did a great job explaining it. I think so. First thing, from a line perspective, a lot of sports books would have had the Broncos as a short favorite at full health, right? So Bo Nix playing, obviously Patriots playing, maybe Broncos 1.5 or 2 or so. This line then opened Patriots -4.5, got as high as 5.5. And just for comparison, because I think it's always worth it, right? I do that preseason article asking odds makers, what's the difference in these point spread between the starter and the backup? Well, that's roughly 7 points, right? If you're saying it's 1.5 to 5.5, that's about the same difference as Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, right? To their backups. So just when you put it in that perspective, it seems a tad inflated. Now, obviously, that's come back down a bit. Right now, it's Patriots -4.5 kind of in the market. We also saw this total get bumped up. It did open at 40.5, now up to around 42.5 with some sharper bettors betting on the over there. So saying, hey, maybe this is a little too low, or potentially a bet against the Patriots or Broncos defense as well. So that's kind of some of what we've seen in terms of the line movement. In terms of historically as well, this would be the biggest at 4.5. The biggest home underdog for, first of all, a number 1 seed since 1970. And then also home dogs of 4 points or more, right? So +4 or more are 10-0 against the spread in the last 50 years with 6 outright wins. So underdogs basically at home in this situation have tended to at least cover the spread, if not win a lot of those games. So some of those, right, was the Marshawn Lynch game. We've seen others, obviously, over the years as well. But historically, I think we tend to underrate that team, right? Because it's like, oh, in this case, they lost their quarterback. They can't possibly win. And I think, to C-Rob's point, like, remember, they also didn't have to play the first week, so they had a bye. They should be healthier. They're at home, have home field advantage. They haven't had to travel anywhere. And another, benefit, depending on how you want to play it, is nobody has seen Jarrett Stidham, right? So while he may not necessarily be good, could be good, there's also no film really on him in the last 2 years. And so you don't know the same game plan as you have against Bo Nix. I think the big thing with Bo Nix, and that reading a couple articles as well, he's just very good also at escaping sacks. He's not Caleb Williams, but he's very good at sack avoidance. He usually isn't turning the ball over too much. I think that's the thing with Jarrett Stidham, more of a pocket passer. Can New England get pressure on him? And is he able to, like you were saying, Andrew, push the ball down the field as well? Sean Payton as well, you guys know him far better than I do. I don't know him at all. I get the sense he kind of relishes this challenge too, right? Like, I don't have my starting quarterback. Take this. Well, I'm going to take Jarrett Stidham with this defense and go to the Super Bowl. So I think there's some of that as well. It should be a really good game. I do think this line will, one odds maker said, I wouldn't be surprised if it closed a little closer to 3. I don't know if it'll get that far back down, but we have seen it come back down a bit. And like you guys were talking about, Drake May, I had to go back and read this twice just to make sure I didn't get it wrong. And we know Frank hates QBR. CJ Stroud's QBR in that game, 21.1. Drake May's QBR, 20.8. He had a lower QBR in that divisional round game against the Texans than CJ Stroud. And he obviously has had running and everything else, but he took 5 sacks in each of those first 2 games, and 2 of them against the Texans were basically the same play, with Will Anderson coming around the edge quickly and stripping the ball. So it's a little bit concerning with that. He's played really well over the course of the season, but the Patriots offense also 7 of 25 on third down in the playoffs. Like they haven't been great. They've gotten it done, I think, because of some injuries on the other side, and obviously the opposing quarterback's not playing well. But it's laid out for them. Whether or not they take advantage of it, we'll see.
Yeah, Drake May has a completion percentage sub 60 in each of these 2 playoff games. Like, that just generally doesn't happen for a quarterback winning games in the postseason. They have won with him, and he's made some great throws. The Kayshon Boutte touchdown and single coverage down the sideline last weekend, most notably. The guy has played well, certainly, but he's also gotten lucky. When the ball's out, it's bounced their way. Will Campbell, Nick Bonito, that would give me nightmares this week if I'm if I'm Mike Vrabel, to be candid, because the Denver Broncos are coming after Drake May, and they are going to get to him. The question is, what does he do when they get to him? Does he protect the football or not? Patriots 6 giveaways, 9 sacks, only 19 points allowed. That's their defense. So let's not forget their defense is playing really well as well. Because we mentioned Kayshon Boutte, it's Booty, by the way, and he was quite bootylicious last weekend. Let's get to the back and forth here. And the arrogance, the chest thumping, if you will. There's not been a lot of it, but there's been a little bit of it. Listen to what Sean Payton had to say about rest.
Coach, for about the past month, you've had a message to fans every single week about noise. Do you have a message for them this week with being the final game?
Well, they're going to have plenty of rest after this one. 2 weeks.
Okay. So, hey, Sean, message to the fans, like just a layup, probably from a local news reporter who's there and probably covering the team for the first time all year. Hey, Sean, message to the fans. Make a lot of noise. You got time to rest. Okay. Well, that obviously can be misconstrued. Social media stuff, whatever. It got to the Patriots locker room, and here is what Mr. Booty said.
Not that you guys need any extra motivation, but did you see the Sean Payton quote insinuating that Denver fans will have some extra rest for the Super Bowl?
Nah, I ain't never seen
Yeah,
it.
he said they have 2 weeks to rest up for the Super Bowl, basically insinuating
Yeah, nah, I
the
ain't
Super Bowl.
seen it.
Does that matter to you guys at all?
You can rest in Cancun, too, at the end of the day. So it is what it is.
Hey, now.
love it.
Hey, can I
Love it.
Can I give you an out of context quote and have you react to it to start something? I'm not trying to start something, but may I read you something out of context, please, C-Rob?
I thought the context was okay. It felt like, I mean,
Really?
look, we know. Yeah, I feel like Sean's talking trash.
I mean,
That's clearly Sean getting out there.
I'm not one to often defend Sean Payton. He said it with a smirk on his face, but it was, and he could have totally not said what he said. I understand that. But what he said was, make some noise. You got, like,
He's being playful. Yeah,
whatever.
I mean,
You got time to rest.
true, but he is saying you'll have 2 weeks of rest. I mean, if you make that declarative statement, you're saying
He didn't say you'll
"We're gonna
have
win this
all
game.
off
You'll have-"
season because we're not coming back
No,
to Denver.
he said you got
you'll
2
have
weeks.
Okay, you're right. He could have said, guys, it's now or never. Make the noise. We appreciate you.
I like it, and I think, it was interesting because when he came back out and he announced the Bo Nix news at the press conference that night of the game, a couple days later, I actually had an executive hit me up, and he said, people don't understand the genius of what he did in that moment. He said, had Sean Payton not done that in the moment, what ends up happening with your team, there's this cloud that gathers over the next, 24 hours, right? There's questions. Guys are wondering what's going on. And he said what Sean did that night is he got in front of it as fast as he possibly could. He said, like, why wait? Let's get out and start the messaging immediately about Jarrett Stidham and move the mindset of our team forward. I also think this is Sean coming out and saying this is just another thing. He's trying to be playful. He's trying to, lean into his team, gas them up a little bit. And, he and Mike Vrabel have a really playful relationship where they kind of take little swipes at each other in good humor. I think they like it. They enjoy it. And I saw Mike Vrabel didn't take the cheese when he was offered up the quote as well.
Cheese. Yep.
But I guarantee you, come on, Andrew, behind the scenes, Mike is saying stuff behind the scenes. It's the Patriots. He came from that Belichick era, that Brady era where they dug out anything as material. And this will be a decent little piece of material.
Including your call sheets from the trash can in the locker room. You said dug out, dug out from the trash can. Your call sheet.
Stop.
Nice.
Come on. We're going to go to that.
Also, I would throw in.
It's funny because it's true. Keep going.
I was going to say, I won't touch that one. I'll leave that one to you guys. Also, there's not any advantage, right? This isn't a sprained ankle where it's like, okay, we want them to prep for 2 quarterbacks. Like, he's out.
Yeah.
So getting ahead of it is good. And also, to that point, Jarrett Stidham gets the full week of practice, right? He's not splitting reps with anyone. He's getting all the first team. He knows he's starting. The team knows he's starting. To that point as well, a couple big injuries, right? Alex Forsythe, I think, limited in practice, and Troy Franklin and Pat Bryant. Troy Franklin with the hamstring, Pat Bryant got the concussion in the last game. Like, those are big injuries for the Broncos to see whether or not they'll be able to play.
Yeah, they're dressing Elijah Moore, in all likelihood, who was up and active last week as well, who started the season in Buffalo, former Jet second-round pick, and former Brown as well. I love this game. It's not Indiana, the greatest American sports story we've seen since the Miracle on Ice. It's not what this would be if Jarrett Stidham won this game, but we have very, very, very clearly seen the swing here where, oh my God, Broncos are dead to... As the week progresses, we're talking ourselves into it here. Yep, we're talking ourselves into it here. There is a path. There's a gleam, as Marty Schottenheimer once said. And I think the Broncos, even though it's wrong for me to say it because Marty said it before a game against the Broncos, and the Broncos ruined my childhood, and I still am mad about it. But you know what I'm saying? I think the Broncos can do it. All right, coming up next, how about the Rams and the Seahawks? What Cooper Kupp had to say today, what Mike McDonald had to say today, and what we think about the Super Bowl before the Super Bowl. Next on Inside Coverage. It's Inside Coverage on Yahoo. Let's talk about the NFC Championship game. And also because I like to pull the curtain back. I was told once ago by one of my bosses in radio, like, never refer to something on the air that the listener, the viewer, can't actually participate in. Like, don't tell, like, a little secret. Oh, off the air, we're talking about this, but then not let them in on it. So off the air, I'll tell you, I was looking up the Marty Schottenheimer There's a Gleam speech, January 11, 1987, before The Drive, the 87 AFC Championship game. The game in which Rich Karlis missed a field goal in overtime to send the Broncos to the Super Bowl. Anyway, Charles Robinson is with me. Ben Fawkes is with me. I'm assuming when they come on cam laughing at me. Can I see?
With.
Ben is.
With.
Okay, there they are.
With.
Not with.
Absolutely with.
Actually, what I like to say, Ben, is I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing near you. Yeah.
I was probably not watching that game in my crib, I will say, but I was alive for the game. So
I will. Yeah. I will tell you, go jump in a lake, Ben. Lake Erie, actually, where they're going to get a 1.5 feet of snow. All right, NFC Championship game. It is the late game on Sunday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time in Seattle on Fox. Kevin and Burkhardt, Tom Brady, Aaron Andrews, Tom Rinaldi, Cletus the Robot, a cast of thousands. It'll be a good show. These are the two best teams in the NFL. We've said it multiple times. They would meet 3 times. We were right. Money back guaranteed. Point differential, Seattle 191, the Rams 172. Two best point differentials in the National Football League. Rams, number 1 scoring offense. Seahawks, number 1 scoring defense. Rams are trying to get to their 3rd Super Bowl under Sean McVay. They're 1-1. The Seahawks are trying to get to their 4th Super Bowl and the 1st since their back-to-back appearances, the win in New York and then the subsequent loss, Malcolm Butler, in Arizona. So, again, they've met twice. Week 1, or rather week 11, the first time they met, that was in L.A., it was a 2-point game. Rams won 21-19. Former Ram linebacker, now with the Seahawks, Ernest Jones, got on the podium afterwards and cussed and supported his quarterback, Sam Darnold, after he melted in the 4th quarter. And then, week 16, the Rams came back and they lost in overtime in Seattle. Seahawks won that game 38-37. So the 2 times they've played this year, the total margin of victory, the total difference between these 2 teams is 3 points in 2 games. And I can't make excuses, although I have in the past. I don't think the Rams got the right use of replay, and I think it worked to their detriment in that game on Thursday night. You can't cry over it anymore. In that game, though, Matthew Stafford threw for 457 and 3, season high. Puka Nacua, career high, 225, including the go-ahead touchdown from Stafford in overtime before the Seahawks came back and they won that game. Rams had a season-high 581 yards of offense in that game, the most the Seahawks have given up in any game this year. Now, the flip side of that is that the Seahawks have not allowed a touchdown since Week 17. They didn't allow one in Week 18. They didn't allow one against the 49ers a week ago. The Seahawks have been playing that well. It comes down to, can Sam Darnold make enough plays against Chris Shula, against whom he is 1-3? Neither of these teams, C-Rob, bring a lot of blitzes, but they're both top 10 in pressure. They're just going to whoop you with the guys they have up front and try to confuse you on the back end. Which quarterback falls victim to the confusion? The Seahawks clearly have the home field advantage here. It is the loudest outdoor stadium in the NFL, and for my money, the most foreboding road environment in the National Football League, and that cannot be overstated. I am taking the Rams. I wear my Rams fandom on my sleeve. I'm not afraid to say that. However, it is tenuous.
Yeah, and I've been in that stadium in playoff games, and it even ticks up a little bit more in the playoffs. I mean, it's impossible to play in the regular season. Then when the playoffs come, you can't hear the person 3 feet away from you when you're on field level, which there's no doubt this is such a tremendous home field advantage. We talked about it when the Seahawks locked up that seed, in the regular season. I think what's interesting here, though, is when I think about the Rams, I really look at both these teams defensively, and I think about, okay, which quarterback can find a way to affect the other team's secondary. And when you look at the Rams, I still think their corners, their secondary, it's a little bit vulnerable. Like, you go back and you watch the Panthers game, Jalen Coker cut them up. Ted McMillan had some really big plays. They looked very vulnerable at times. And then the Bears, even though Caleb Williams was spreading it around, Cole Kmet catches the longest 14-yard completion in the history of the NFL because Kobe Durant was just out of position. Now, Kobe Durant had a couple picks in that game, but I do think there is an element of feeling there's some vulnerability in that Rams secondary. And I think Rashid Shaheed, plays a bigger factor in this game. I think obviously Cooper Kupp and Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think, losing Zach Charbonnet, is a huge loss for them.
11 touchdowns.
I mean, that's and he balanced out the backfield, right? But not that Kenneth Murray can carry it, right? I mean, he can absolutely Kenneth Walker. Sorry, jeez, man, I'm dying here right now with the names.
It's okay.
Kenneth
Murray has also
Michigan
played in this
State.
league, linebacker. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I only went to Michigan State. I'm familiar with Kenneth Walker's game.
Now, hold on. Can I interrupt? Because you mentioned Kenneth Walker as a Sparty a couple of days ago. You totally discount his 3 or 4 years and his degree from Wake Forest.
Yeah, I don't recognize that.
Just making sure.
He touched the ball like 400 times his one season with the Spartans. So that's all I really
just making
remember.
Sure.
But look, he can carry the load. I do, though, think it comes down to how can the Rams affect Darnold? The middle of their defensive line, I think, can get pressure and move him off his spot. And look, he melted down in the first game. He kind of melted up in the second game. He was awful. We thought, oh my God, this guy on the big stage is just terrible. And then we saw him make big plays down the stretch. I'm curious to see if Shaheed can be a bigger part of the offensive game plan. But I just think those 3 receivers, when I stare at that Seahawks roster and knowing kind of the vulnerabilities that the Rams corners have had, they've showcased a little bit in this playoff. I think if Sam Darnold can expose that and they can make plays, I think the Seattle defense can hopefully hold them to fewer than 37 points in this next game. Oh, that was special teams.
Real quick
too.
on
Okay,
Rashid.
I can't ignore that.
Yeah, no. On Rashid Shaheed, you can't kick him the ball. Last time they were there, Chase Blackburn got fired on the way home after that one because they punted the ball to Rashid Shaheed, and that changed the game. The game was over. That changed the game. And they weren't going to punt to him. They did punt to him, and the Rams have a new special teams coach. You saw what that kick return did last week. The game was over at that point. The 49ers were dead. They kicked Rashid Shaheed. He ran the opening kick back. Mitch Wishnowsky tried to trip him. I think it was Wishnowsky, right? Regardless. No. Yeah, whatever. They got the tripping penalty. The game was over at that point. The Rams cannot kick the ball to Rashid Shaheed, period. Matter of fact, I heard someone, and I think it's a good thought, suggest this week that if they win the toss, don't defer. Take the ball. Like, don't let him screw up the beginning of that game. Just a thought.
Yeah.
Ben, go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say Andrew was looking at the same notes I was, because that game, I believe, was 30-14 in the fourth quarter. And all of a sudden, everything changed after that punt return, right? Completely changed the game. Who knows if Sam Darnold goes down, right, and scores multiple touchdowns. But I believe they then maybe even stopped them for a 3-and-out, got the ball back, scored again. All of a sudden, it was almost tied or was very close. So he completely changed the game in a close game like this. Odds makers, number one power rated team has been the Rams. Number two power rated team has been the Seahawks, right? DVOA is the same thing, except the Seahawks number one, Rams number two. Like, these are clearly the two best teams, I think, in the NFC, and in a game of two teams that we've already seen play twice that are very evenly matched in a lot of ways. Special teams could be that difference. And the Seahawks, second special teams DVOA, the Rams 26th, right? So we've seen that sometimes with a kicker, with not as great punting. Like you said, they fired their special teams coordinator already. And Rashid Shaheed has shown, I think that game probably, the 49ers Seahawks game, would have gone in that direction eventually, but I don't know that it would have gone as quickly after that kickoff return. That kind of, stamped the game right out of the gates. Seahawks, a 2.5-point favorite. This has touched 3, has come back mostly to 2.5. Talking to odds makers, it seems like that's probably where it'll stay. It probably won't get too much higher, probably won't get too much lower. Total has come down a little bit, down to 47 or 46.5. But this is just going to be, two really good teams. Like you guys were saying, how much can Darnold do? Is that oblique, right? Is it better after a week? Is it worse now that, whatever drugs he shot up with before that game?
Ben.
Right. He hasn't thrown the ball.
He's not throwing right now.
Right. We don't really know with that aspect. I do think the loss of Charbonnet is big as well for the Seahawks. And the Rams, unlike the 49ers, right? The Niners had so many injuries. They didn't have the wide receivers on the outside to threaten the Seahawks. And they didn't have the offensive line and running game as well to threaten the Seahawks. And you could just see they were just up on the line of scrimmage. There was nothing there. The Rams have all that, right? And they have multiple tight ends, and they have a really good offensive line. So I'm very curious to see kind of if the Rams, who also their offense hasn't looked as good this postseason. I think weather also won't be a factor, which is important in Seattle. But the Rams led the league 6.0 yards per play during the regular season. Against the Panthers, they were at 5.7, including 4 yards per rush. And against the Bears, 4.4 yards per play and 3.6 yards per rush. And again, 8 of 29 by my quick math on third downs. So their offense hasn't been the same in the postseason. And that's part of the reason they're actually the first team, I believe, in the Super Bowl era to win both of their games, but not cover as favorites, to actually make it to the championship round. No one else has ever done that before. So they're going to be an underdog in this game. It should be a really good game. Ultimately, I kind of think the Seahawks defense is playing well enough that they get the job done. But man, it's kind of amazing that after all this time, it's still, are we going to get good Sam Darnold or bad Sam Darnold? Because he didn't really have to do very much against the 49ers. And we obviously have the data from last season, but it still really comes down to which version of Sam Darnold do you get? Because I think the Rams are too good. He's going to have to make a lot more plays, certainly, than he did against the Niners for them to get to the Super Bowl.
So it's just checking the weather here. It has not changed, to your point, from what we talked about a couple of days ago. It's a high of 43, a low of 30. Kickoff is going to be 3:30 local Pacific time, so it'll be around 40. It'll dip below 40 by halftime. It should probably, be mid to high 30s. Mike McDonald even lamented this week. He wishes it were colder or the weather were worse to give them even more of an edge. The Darnold turnover thing is a thing because, again, last year, 9 sacks ramsacked him 9 times when he was with the Vikings. They played the wild card round, the game in Arizona, had the wildfires here, and the game had to be relocated. Obviously, I gave you the 1-3 record before. But I bet your average NFL fan doesn't know that Sam Darnold led the league in giveaways this year. Tua had 16. Geno Smith had 18. Sam Darnold had 20. No one gave the ball away more this year than Sam Darnold. Yet through all of that, this team won 15 games. Now, that's skewed. They actually won 14 games in the regular season. Their defense was that good. And even though Zach Charbonnet scored 12 touchdowns, and together Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet were a fantastic team, statistically, they didn't really run the ball well this year. It got better, certainly, in the second half. The Rams, conversely, did run the ball really well. And I think Sean really beat himself up on the podium after the game on Sunday. You saw the roller coaster of emotions, the cursing about the weather, the holy bleep, like Caleb Williams made an amazing play, the wow, Matthew drove us back. I mean, that game was a roller coaster Sunday night in Chicago, but he also beat himself up, which he is good at doing, about his play calling. I mean, they ran the ball well, and then they stopped running the ball. Like, you got here by running the football, and Matthew Stafford's the MVP. You cannot get away from the run. So much of your 13 personnel is we could run behind our 3 tight ends, but our 3 tight ends are versatile, and we can, with Stafford, do anything we want to in the pass game. Plus, we could use Puka Nacua. He's not a tight end. He's a wide receiver, and we could use him in the run game like he is a tight end. We have that advantage. Obviously, Devontae Adams, by the way, did not play that game when they played up there in December, week 13, on that Saturday, or on that Thursday, I beg your pardon. So, Charles, is he going to stay true to himself and call a better game and run the ball more? That's what I want to know.
I'd say it's a good question, because it's got to stick in his mind. You know, that pitch to Blake Corum, he knew that was a terrible play call in overtime.
So,
and
I actually thought, I'm going to take a different view. Sean beat himself up. It didn't work. Remember, they had converted the jet sweep earlier to Puka.
Yeah.
So they ran the fake jet sweep. They wanted to get everything flowing that way, and then he was going to flip it, and Blake Corum would go the other way. I give Grady Jarrett credit. He sniffed it out. Now, it was more than just Grady Jarrett, but he's the one who won his one-on-one and got in the backfield. But yeah, Sean beat himself up on that. Sorry.
I think it wasn't just the fact that he called the running play, it wasn't successful. I think, especially when you go back to the fourth quarter, the possession they had before the Bears get the ball back and Caleb Williams throws the touchdown. You know, he runs 4 straight running plays, and they had been, look, they moved. They created a first down the first time he runs the ball, but then he runs 3 consecutive plays into the teeth of the Bears defense. And I'm sitting there staring at it going, you're not going to give at least one of these. You're not going to give the shot to Matt Stafford and Puka Nacua. Like, you're not going to put the ball in this situation. You could have thrown, I think it was 2:07 left on the clock. I wonder if that creeps into Sean's mind that, hey, I didn't lean on my MVP guy enough, down the stretch where, and maybe he tries to force it a little bit more with Stafford in this game. But I don't know. Sean's a pretty intelligent guy, and I think he knows that just because some things went the wrong way against the Bears, you don't go away from what's been obviously a tremendously successful run game. And again, the environment being what it is, I still think, you go on the road in this environment, I would probably want to run it, and not be changing things at the line of scrimmage. You're not, people aren't hearing, there's alignments being called at the line. I mean, you're not going to hear anything, basically. And even Stafford running that, I don't know I'd want to sit there and go, yeah, let's see if we can throw this 40 times in this environment and not make any mistakes.
How about the fact that Darnold only threw 17 passes last week? Now, he was out of there in the fourth quarter.
Crazy.
Yeah,
but still.
They didn't have to throw the ball last week, Ben.
Yeah, which is great for them. And as well, too, C-Rob's point with Stafford, 20 of 42, I believe, against the Bears, 24 of 42 against the Panthers. So he hasn't been super accurate, right? We still have that finger injury he had on against the Panthers that he suffered. He's never going to say, hey, this is really bothering me. But I think we can see the completion percentage down. It doesn't look necessarily exactly the same. And to that point, the Rams, as well with the running game, they've been very successful. They also have the 5th highest rate of inside runs and the 5th highest EPA per play with inside rushes. But the Seahawks are basically like a brick wall, right? With Leonard Williams, you got Byron Murphy. Yeah. I think Leonard Williams is in the 98th percentile in run stop rate. So that's just like a no-fly zone, running the ball through the middle there against the Seahawks. I think that's going to be huge, right? Can you establish some sort of running game? It's probably going to have to be outside the tackles for the Rams to help Stafford as well, because they have all the other weapons. They do have a good offensive line. But man, that Seahawks defense looked very scary against the 49ers.
Yeah, and there's so much connective tissue here. Obviously, it's a division game, maybe not with the coaching staffs per se, but there's Cooper Kupp, who sometimes can't help himself from being honest, was asked today how this year has gone, and he said it's been great, but yeah, I want the ball more. But it's been great. There's Cooper Kupp against the team for which he was Super Bowl MVP that he believes has forsaken him. He gets to go back against them. Ernest Jones probably in the same boat. There's Cam Akers on the Rams side of it. There's Poona Ford. There's Colby Parkinson. I'm just, there's obviously there's some connectivity here between these two franchises, particularly with the players. It's also, and this one kind of surprised me, only the second time in 25 years that you've had a team face another team from its own division twice in the same postseason. When the Rams went to the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl at SoFi when they beat the Bengals, they beat both the Cardinals and the 49ers. People forget Kyler Murray made the postseason. You might forget it because he never went on the field for the final drive. He sat there pouting on the bench. But the Rams did beat the Cardinals at SoFi and then later the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. So this for the Seahawks would be the second time in 25 years that a team has had to face a division opponent twice. And both of these instances come from the NFC West, which was the best division in football this year. Obviously, the 49ers were in, and now they are out. Coming up, we have our finalists for the big awards to be handed out in 2 weeks, actually 2 weeks from today at NFL Honors in San Francisco. And a 49ers related one more thing. Don't go anywhere. Inside Coverage continues. It is a championship weekend edition, championship Sunday edition of Inside Coverage. Welcome back, Andrew Siciliano, Charles Robinson, our betting analyst Ben Fawkes as well. 2 weeks from today, and we record this, let me look at my watch, on the 22nd of January, Thursday, January 22nd. 2 weeks from today is NFL Honors, hosted by John Hamm, in San Francisco, in which they hand out all the big awards. We got the finalists for those awards today, the one that obviously gets the biggest headline, other than Myles Garrett's going to win Defensive Player of the Year. We know that. MVP. Here's your list. Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence, Drake May, Christian McCaffrey, Matthew Stafford. I should tell you, NFL Honors is presented by Invisalign. But still at the network, I'd get my wrist slapped if I did not. So there are your finalists. And I also want to remind people, especially Patriots fans who, let's say the Patriots win and the Rams lose on Sunday, that the hay is in the barn. The train has left the station. The die has been cast. Whatever cliches you want. Because the votes have been cast. An accounting firm already knows who has won the MVP. It is in a safe somewhere for safekeeping. It is locked up. You can't see it. Charles Robinson, how do you think this plays out?
Well, I have a vote, so I can't. I can't say.
Oh, I forgot.
I have to be careful. Yeah, I have to be very careful about what we're not allowed to talk about how we vote. It's a very, very big no-no, especially now with the law firm tabulating these votes. And you kind of knew the day was coming because of gambling and prop bets becoming,
Sure.
a much bigger deal. And I will say this year, you knew it was going to be you were going to get pressed about keeping it a secret because it felt so close as the season came to a close when it came to Matt Stafford and Drake May. And, I think I will say this, those 5 finalists for MVP, they look very familiar to me. I can say that much. It was very familiar. I won't say the order of familiarity, but that's no surprise to me when I saw the 5 finalists. And I thought, all the finalists for the awards, they all look very, very legitimate. And as you said, so people remember, this is a regular season award. Doesn't matter what. I saw people debating, last week, does this game against the Bears, does this hurt Matt Stafford for MVP? And I'm like, dude, no, like it's over. We voted already. So we're not factoring that in. We're not factoring in Drake May games, and we'll see how it ultimately turns out. Ben, how do you think this is ultimately going to turn out?
I don't have
I
a
just
vote.
want people to know.
I also did not.
Ben and Charles are in different rooms in different states. Okay, for their own protection.
I did not have a
Ben,
vote. I also did not wager on this market. I do think it's fascinating, especially this season. Right, we saw such variance, and week to week, even really quarter to quarter, the last couple of weeks with Drake May and Matthew Stafford. And Stafford was, a favorite. And then all of a sudden, Drake May was this huge favorite. And slowly it kind of crept back. It would actually be kind of interesting if it was open, which it isn't, to the voting the last couple of weeks, right? Because both teams won. I think you would say Stafford played better than May. But again, we won't get into that because it doesn't matter because the voting's closed. Matthew Stafford did close at BetMGM as a short favorite. He was minus 140. I believe Drake May was plus 115. So take that for what it's worth, which ultimately is not that much because unlike, let's say, these games on the field that we're playing, this is just kind of the market responding to money that's coming in and trying to read the tea leaves. And to Charles's point, it's a bunch of people voting on it. So it's not even like a draft market where okay, we know that this team, if you have information, they are definitely taking this player at, pick number 10. There's 50 people or how many people are voting on it. And so it's just kind of, it's another interesting data point, I think, to use, but especially since it was so close in the betting market as well. And when it closed, it's not like Matthew Stafford was minus 5,000 and Drake May had no chance. I think it's going to be a very close vote. I think Stafford probably ends up winning also because you have a little bit of the Lifetime Achievement Award. Drake May will probably be there again, but they both had really good seasons. It's tough to discount that much of what May did. And the biggest argument really seems to be he didn't play that tough a schedule, which he obviously can't control. And he doesn't have as good weapons as Matthew Stafford. I think those things are both. It's tough to argue both of those things. But ultimately, they both had great seasons. I think it'll be a pretty close race. I put it this way. I don't think it's like last season where afterwards it's like, oh, Lamar Jackson should have won. Right. I think whoever wins is very deserving.
Ben, there's one thing I'm curious to kind of get your vantage on this because it's very interesting to me knowing, like, as a voter, how this sort of breaks down for people at the end of the season. But like the week to week swings are so fascinating to me, where it's like one guy has a good game, a front runner has a bad game, and then all of a sudden the next week it's like, oh, they've reversed positions, and I'm like, that's not really how. Like, there are people betting
how it
in
works.
that should not be how people are betting this at all. Because I'm just telling you, when you get to the end of the season, it's a very drawn out process sitting there and going over, the analytical data, and then some of the things that you factor in your vote that are nebulous. They're not necessarily the same criteria as the next voter. But it just fascinates me that people make these snap judgments in the middle of the season because somebody has a good game or a bad game, and then actually bets that based on 1 week of an outcome. And there's still another 6 or 7 weeks left in the season.
I think that probably the easiest way to explain it, and again, I don't know this as 100% certainty. First of all, there isn't nearly as much money being bet in the markets, right, versus like a regular game. So a small bet here or there can move it. I think some of it, too, is just odds makers getting ahead of what they think the public probably will do, right? And so if the public sees Drake May throws 5 touchdowns against the Jets, and has this amazing game, why would they offer him at plus 400 when they could offer him at plus 200 or, plus 150?
Okay. Yeah.
They don't want to get, that deluge of money at worse odds. So to your point, it's not always reflective. Like, it's not reflective of a game and who has a better chance to win because we have this algorithm over X amount of years. Like, it's just better guesswork, I guess, with some money involved in the market. Because to your point, what Matthew Stafford did in week 5 should matter just as much as what he did in week 16. It just is. Right. We're in week 16. We saw that. That's what's in front of us right now. So yes, the market shouldn't really shift that much.
See, Rob, let me ask you this, and if at any time, I paint you into a corner, just say stop, because I've never I know plenty of people that vote. I've just never actually asked any questions. Are you guys discouraged from talking to each other? Not saying, hey, if I vote this way, you vote that way. I'm not suggesting any funny business like that. But could let's say in Mobile, well, that's after the fact. But let's say during the season, 3 voters happen to grab a beer after a game. You're not discouraged from having this conversation, right?
No, we're not discouraged from talking to each other. Okay. I think if there was some sort of, I think if someone was found to be trying to tabulate the actual votes, like going to every single voter and going, hey, who do you have as the leader now? Who do you have as the leader now? Then you're going to be in some trouble. Like, I don't think
no one's whipping votes.
Yeah, and
right.
Also, what are you using that for? If you can't say what your vote is, and you have to be careful about what you say, why are you tabulating, votes? But I'll be honest with you, down the stretch for as I was sorting out the MVP, I reached out to a couple very long time voters, and I said, hey, I'm having a really hard time separating these two individuals. Here are some things that I'm looking at. I struck up a conversation to just sort of make sure I was seeing the different perspectives, or I wasn't leaving a perspective out of how I was handling it, and I will often do that. And I call around, by the way. I called the teams that faced, I'll give you a little nugget here. Matt Stafford and Drake May, they had a couple teams in common that they played this season. I called those teams and I said, what do you think about these two individuals and about the MVP award? And I actually asked, if you were to vote, how do you think you would vote and what would that be based on? And it was interesting to hear those responses. So
that's good reporting.
Everybody does it different.
Yeah, like that obviously you're trying to be the best voter, but you're also just being a good reporter in that way. I mean, that helps I think whether down the road.
I think you have to you owe it to the players, right? These players work very hard. They pour their lives, their families' lives all into this. And especially when it's a very, very close vote, you really owe it to them to do as much as you possibly can. And I think, by the way, I think the teams appreciate that you're willing to do the due diligence and ask them. So
it's also the value of sources,
to build
right?
an allegiance that's why, and get somebody off the island. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Ben.
No, I was going to say that's the value of sources, right? It's that they are locked. They are in these rooms. You're not giving any proprietary information about game plans or anything else. No. You're just saying, hey, you guys planned against both these. Who was better? Who was worse? Who are you more scared of? Why would you vote? I think it's great to add to the perspective. And to that point, it's great that you're taking it seriously, as everyone should, right? I think there's sometimes people in public are like, oh, these media members, they take 2 seconds, they fill out the ballots. Like, no, this is a big deal. Yeah. There's not that many people that get to do it. It's important.
Top 100 can be like that on NFL Network because they generally don't give. They're kind of vague guidelines given to the players, like, hey, vote in the top 100, and people view it differently. Like, who are the 100 most talented players in the game? Who had the 100 best seasons?
Right.
Some people look at it that way. Other people look at it like, well, who will have the best careers? Who has the best career? It's kind of nebulous, which a lot of people have criticized that platform because of it. Hey, there's no real standard here. The other way to look at it, and when we would host the shows there, it was hard to convey this, but it's also kind of the beauty of it. You never know how it's going to come out. Is it a popularity contest? And it's a mix of different criteria, which often makes it a mess of a countdown, but it's kind of fun as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I remember. I can't recall who the second player was, but the year Kyler Murray, um, it was a really close offensive rookie of the year vote that year, and I my vote ended up being like it was weighted down by reaching out to teams in the divisions that had Kyler Murray and who was the
I'm looking it
was
up.
it
Keep
Garrett
going.
Wilson? Maybe it was Garrett Wilson. It was a really close vote that year, and
Josh Jacobs.
It was Josh Jacobs. Huh. I don't remember it being Josh Jacobs.
Kyler Murray, Josh Jacobs, A.J. Brown, Miles Sanders were the only ones that got votes. Offensive Rookie of the Year. We're talking MVP or Rookie of the Year? Rookie of the Year?
No. Offensive Rookie of the Year. Yeah, it was the Offensive Rookie of the Year vote.
He beat
and
Josh Jacobs.
But teams are very when you say, "Hey, this is what I'm calling about," like they're very helpful with both statistics or just sort of game planning mentalities versus players and how, they do have a sense of how they would slot one player over another. And it is these awards, as much as they get hammered, and people criticize them, I know there's a lot of work that really goes into this. And, Jory Epstein, obviously, in our, she has a vote as well, and she works very, very hard on it. And we discuss like the work that we have to do on it to get it right. So
yeah,
it matters.
And she's mentioned that here on this show, obviously, in the past, and she no doubt does take it very seriously. And there's no conspiracy, not like that time I went on The Weakest Link many years ago, and these two women conspired to get me out of there after the first round. They shall remain nameless. One of them was Shannon. The other one, name I don't remember, and I'm not over it. Not afraid to say.
I'm going to need that story when we have more time.
Yeah, we need a clip out. We need some clip outs of this for the show, for sure.
I was the weakest link. Fun fact. I'll tell the story real quick. I won't tell the whole story of the whole show. I'll just say that it aired 24 years ago, and I never got the tape. And about 5-6 years ago, actually, I've been looking for years. I've been trying to find it online on YouTube. Nobody has it.
Really?
And I went on Reddit last year, and it took me months, but I finally found the right subreddit in which people collect these things, old episodes of game shows. And Guy sent me a Dropbox file because his brother was one of the other contestants.
Oh, wow.
I have the video now.
You have the video.
Internet detective. I'm trying to determine how and when, or if, to be fair, I should post a very
summer
young
episodes.
me on...
This just writes itself here in June. We got. Yeah.
We cast out the sportscaster. Goodbye. Thank you, and
well,
okay,
Andrew, you'll never have to worry about being the weakest link on this show. We have Frank. So,
look at you, Charles. You're so nice and full of it. Thank you, buddy. Okay, time now for one more thing, and Charles, because of that, you get to go first.
Yeah, I guess it's the conspiracy theories online are crazy. I mean, like it's just where we're going online is amazing. But this, obviously, I don't know who's heard about it or not, but the 49ers been ravaged by injuries. There's been, everyone's scraping every piece of data they can to figure out why are they so much more injury prone than anyone else. Turns out there's this massive electrical substation near the practice field and Levi Stadium. You can actually see it when you're there and you're practicing. And a conspiracy grew over the course of the last, few weeks about this substation. Is this what is the EMF, electromagnetic force that's emanating from this substation? Is it what is causing these 49ers injuries? Kendrick Bourne brought it up after George Kittle tore his Achilles. So today, John Lynch actually had to address it, whether or not they're going to investigate the substation and the EMF, and if that's affecting the injuries.
Forgive me, I have a question about the electrical substation. I mean, I assume you guys think there's nothing to that, but you do have guys in your locker room who aren't sure. based on some stories, there are people in the league who aren't sure, and maybe it's a consideration if they want to come to the Niners. I mean, it kind of seems ridiculous, but is that something that you have to, I don't know, study, but or at least address in the locker room, address in some way? Because right now, even though I don't know, but it seems like it could be easily debunked. But there's a
Kyle's
feeling,
face, yeah,
at least in
Kyle's
the locker
face.
room around the league, that maybe there's something to it.
Yeah, what I would tell you, Eric, because it deals with allegedly, the health and safety of our players, I think you have to look into everything. And so our guys we've been reaching out to anyone and everyone to see, does a study exist other than a guy sticking an apparatus underneath a fence and coming up with a number that I have no idea what that means. That's what we know exists. We've heard that debunked. So yes, we will look into it. We have. The health and safety of our players is of the utmost priority. We pour into it. Our ownership, Jed, tremendous in terms of resources, and we'll always be cognizant of things. I know that a lot of games have been won at this facility, since it opened, and so. But yeah, we aren't going to turn a blind eye. We'll look into everything.
And he said
I
it with
wanted
a straight
Kyle to
face
answer.
as well.
I want Kyle to answer. I was like, no, Lynch is too even-handed. I wanted Kyle to be the one. And you can note when the question got asked, Kyle kind of leaned away from the mic and starts drinking his coffee. He's like, I don't
coffee.
He looked like he'd rather be playing that Seahawks game again, over and over and over, than answer that question.
Or Eric Armstead told us yesterday that he and Trent Williams would keep track of how many curses, how many F-bombs, to be quite blunt, that Kyle would have in his night before the game team meetings. And he said that he once counted 130 on one Saturday night meeting out of Kyle's mouth, 130. So the whole time I'm thinking the thought bubble above Kyle's head and how many bombs were in said bubble the entire time. As John Lynch is doing the political thing, checking the HR boxes, obviously we're gonna look into this because some guy on TikTok with a tinfoil hat posted some video and now it's going around. Absolutely, we'll check every box there and do that. They've practiced there for 40 years. Okay. They won
bigger.
Super Bowls.
The substation got bigger.
It's not the reason Joe Montana got hurt. They're fine, people. Although the funniest thing I did see, and I'm not laughing at Jimmy Butler's misfortune, but somebody posted something, sent it to me a couple of days ago. The 49ers roll into the Warriors game. Next thing you know, Jimmy Butler blows his knee out. Coincidence? I don't know. EMF. All right. What do you got, Ben? Top that.
Mine's not as controversial as that one. That one's impossible to top. I'm an NFL guy. It's my favorite sport. It's the sport that has the most people watching it, the most people betting on it. Just enjoy this weekend. We have two really good games.
Yes.
Obviously, if the Broncos had a starting quarterback, that would be, maybe better than Jarrett Stidham, but still makes it an interesting game in a lot of different ways and historically. But it's going to be a long time till we have two NFL games in, one more day, in a single day. I think September probably. So just sit back. I'll be under at least a foot of snow watching those games. It's going to be good, but I will be shedding a tear probably at the end of it as I write the Super Bowl opening line newser that, there'll only be one more game after this weekend.
Yeah. But I would tell you that on Super Bowl Sunday, you could also watch yours truly on the Gold Zone on Peacock and USA and your NBC platform. So there is athletic competition. The thrill, the majesty.
True. That is true.
Of the 2026 Winter Games in Milan Cortina. There will be medals awarded leading up to the Super Bowl. I also recommend you watch NBC's pregame show, Football Night in America. But I'm just saying, there is athletic competition this weekend. My one more thing, happy birthday, Sean McVay. He turns 40. He'll be a man. He's Mike Gundy, although wins more. On Saturday, Sean McVay turns 40, and then a day later tries to get to his third Super Bowl at the age of 40. He is already, in year number 9, the winningest coach in the history of that franchise, dating all the way back to when they were the Cleveland Rams, and then they moved to Los Angeles. He has already coached more games, passing John Robinson 2 months ago, than any coach in the proud history of this franchise. Sean McVay, happy birthday. That's all I got. Gentlemen, enjoy your football weekend. As Hacksaw used to say, enjoy your sports weekend.
Just please let me get out of here on a plane. I don't want to be stuck here.
When's your flight? When's your flight?
I did. I moved it up to Friday, and we thought that was going to be early enough, and now they're saying that Friday might be a problem. So, and I'm not moving it again. This is it. If it doesn't get out Friday, then I'm not getting out.
I know I've said this 1,000 times. I might go to that game, and if I do, see Rob, I'll hit you. I owe you.
Sounds good.
Ben, stay warm. For Charles and Ben and Jory and Frank, I'm Andrew. So long, everybody, and thanks for listening to and watching Inside Coverage.